Good morning. My name is America Lial, and I will talk about my inquiry research. And my inquiry question and concept under investigation is, how can I make my classroom a positive and inclusive place where students want to be and learn? And the concept is inclusive classroom. The problem under investigation came up when I started my practicum in Cowichan Secondary School in Duncan. And during my observation weeks, I could realize the high absenteeism to school. And some of the students are registered but never showed up for classes. And other students attend irregularly or prefer work in other spaces as the First Nation room instead of the classroom, even in classes as a self-paced math where they need more support, they prefer being alone instead of receiving the support in the classroom. And others just skip the class. Why I'm interested in this problem? Because I really believe in the positive impact of a classroom where all students feel welcome, appreciated, and safe is a beneficial for the student's sense of belonging, and belonging allowed more learning. And I feel that my call from education is to affect my students' lives in a positive way through education. And to do it so, I need my student to attend regularly to my class, willing to be present and learn. Background and part of my investigation start with the definition of inclusion. I have three, and the first, the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized. And inclusion is the idea that everyone should be able to use the same facilities, take part in the same activities, and enjoy the same experience, including people who have disabilities or other disadvantage. Inclusion is a way of thinking. I like that part. I deeply held belief that all children, regardless of ability or disability, are valued members of the school and the classroom community. An inclusive classroom should be a welcoming place for everyone, considering all the difference. Diversity is a gift. Inclusive classrooms are places where all students are integral members, connected to their peers, have access to rigorous and meaningful general education, and receive the support needed to succeed. An inclusive classroom also has a physical design with adequate space, the access, decoration, furniture, light, noise for all kinds of needs. And in my research, I found about the diversity that I could find in my classroom, gifted students, and they are who possess innate ability, raw potential, or outstanding aptitudes. If the gifted is an underprivileged child, their brilliance can be considered highly gifted. And giftedness and talent manifest across domain, race, ethnicity, cultural, social, class, gender, or creed. We have to be careful with the stereotypes of gifted students because they not always are the one who score excellence grades. And the example in this paper from Ngara in Zimbabwe, sorry, was about the carving. It has in that school very gifted students in carving, stone carving, that is very typical from Zimbabwe. And that made me think, here we are in, my school will be in Duncan, and Duncan is the city of Totem. And how many of my students, maybe they are gifted in carving cedar. And I will not know, or I hope being able to know it. The author suggested teachers to give extra challenging work or assigning them projects to work and keep them more occupied and interested. In the diversity, I can find students with physical and learning disabilities. And the main benefit to having students with disabilities in inclusive classroom is to give all the students the opportunity to learn, live, work, and play together so that eventually they can successfully live, work, and be together in a community as an adults. Not all disabilities are visible, and give the need support, and not more or less. The amount of support depends on the person who has the disability, and we have to consider their opinion and their feelings. When a support becomes invasive, for example, if the student needs some physical support with touching included, and the student doesn't like the caregiver that day, the student will feel so undermined and will be uncomfortable, and it will affect his behavior and his possibility to have a good day at school. Then treat others in the way you want to be treated could be a good suggestion for teachers and caregivers. And the article offers the idea of the peer support as a very good strategy. Minorities and stereotypes groups, like immigrants. I'm an immigrant, I'm from Chile. Other students coming from violence and poverty environments, different ethnicities, gender, creed, or any student that feels in disadvantage. Students from minorities have experienced discrimination from the teachers, unfortunately. And that is another article about STEAM project and how some teachers doesn't believe in all the students and privilege some little groups and let behind another groups. And that continue a bad cycle, because students, when they don't have the opportunity to be involved in STEAM projects at school, they will not choose STEAM kind of careers with science, technology, engineering, and math at the university. And they will not have that kind of jobs in the future, and they will not contribute in make more knowledge in that area. Students coming from violent environments tend to have sense of frustration and hopelessness. The article proposed to include the students in social justice kind of STEAM project to raise the sense of democracy, agency, and hope. And teacher is a role model about inclusiveness, problem solving, and positive relationship in their classroom. And I found out in all the papers that I read, inclusiveness is a challenge for school, students, and teachers. Some teachers don't want it because that involves a change in the mentality. It involves adapt material, sometimes need to reteach, that is more work. Highly connected with parents and guardians, and that make maybe more personal problem and investment from the teacher. The way of thinking based on generosity, the teacher should be willing to give something from themselves to their students. Flexibility, constant questioning, and self-evaluation. Some teachers discriminate their students and not give the same opportunities. Some teachers argue that depending on the disability, some students will never use the knowledge, like in algebra or world history. Then why take the students in that kind of classes? A student with disabilities may lower their self-esteem by being included with some students not disabled, depending in the context and the relationship in the classroom. And so what? In synthesis, I found that being an inclusive teacher is a commitment. Not easy, because there are so many possible combinations of needs to be integrated in the same class, but it's highly worth it to try it. Some needs are not visible. Give the students the support they need. More or less can be prejudicial. If schools support the challenge, it is easy for teachers to practice the inclusiveness. Inclusive classroom give all the students the opportunity to learn, live, work, and play together so that eventually they can successfully live, work, and be together in the community as an adult. Propose actions. Now what? What I will do after my investigation. I want to know as much as possible and as soon as possible about my students and their needs. I want to keep knowledgeable about how to respond to different needs. I want to take the challenge of inclusiveness as a gift and opportunity. And I commit myself to self-evaluate constantly about my biases and make sure my students are always moving forward. And this investigation can continue in a further inquiry about how can I make my students more actively involved in the inclusiveness, preparing them to be inclusive thinkers, citizens. That's because it suggested the good impact and experience with peer support and inclusiveness. And those are my reference. I have 6 peer-reviewed articles, and that's it. Thank you very much.